2026 Town of Chatham General Fund Budget. Section 3, Water Sewer Fund Revenue. That for the support of the town government and its water sewer fund, all fees, charges, and penalties shall remain as heretofore set out by ordinance, resolution, or other appropriate action of the town council, except as the town council may establish or amend herein. Revenue projections detailed in attachment C are hereby accepted as the revenue portion of the fiscal year 2026 Town of Chatham Water Sewer Fund Budget. Section 4, Water Sewer Fund Expenses. That there is appropriated from the funds and resources of the Town of Chatham Water Sewer Fund the aggregate amounts listed in attachment D, or so much thereof as may be necessary, subject to conditions set forth by our policy for the various designated purposes as set out therein, attachment D, which describes proposed expenditures for the town's water and sewer departments, is hereby accepted as the expense portion of fiscal year 2026 Town of Chatham Water Sewer Fund Budget. Section 5, Personnel. The pay rates for full-time employees shall increase by a rate of 3.5%, effective the first pay period of July 2025. Section 6, Town of Chatham Fee Schedule. That the policies outlining the rates and charges contained in attachment E are hereby amended, adopted, and/or continued as defined herein and by Section A of the Town Code. Section 7, Amendment to Chapter 13.08 Water and Sewer Rates, Title 13. The water rate and the sewer rate, both in town and out of town, have been increased by 3.5%. So in town is now $6.88 per 1,000 gallons. Out of town, $12.38 per 1,000 gallons. Sewer rate in town, $8.55 per 1,000 gallons. Out of town, $17.23 per 1,000 gallons. Late fees, water hookup, sewer hookup, service departments, and lawn irrigation rates all stay the same as previous years. Town of Chatham fine schedule. That the policies outlining rates and charges contained in attachment F are hereby adopted and/or continued as defined herein and by Section B of the Town Code. Section 8, the Town of Chatham personal property tax. That the policies outlining rates and charges contained in attachment G are hereby amended, adopted, and/or continued as defined by Section C of the Town Code. And Section 9, Town of Chatham tax rate schedule. That the policies outlining rates and charges contained in attachment G are hereby amended, adopted, and/or continued as defined herein and by Section C of the Town Code. Fines and personal property tax and tax rate have not changed for this year.
Did I catch you quick enough so you didn't have to read all that?
That's what I said. It gets it out there and it's
It's recorded.
It's
There you
recorded.
go. All right, so do I need to entertain a motion that we pass this resolution? I'm assuming it's from the Finance Committee. Does this come from the committee, so we don't need a second?
On the budget, probably ought to make a motion.
Yes,
so,
okay.
yeah, probably.
All right. So,
Motion
from Easley. Second from Mr. Riddle. Okay.
Madam Mayor, speaking briefly to the budget. First of all, I want to say, Nick, thank you for all of your work on this budget. I think the workshops we did for it were helpful and kept us updated on what we envision as a council we want to get done for next fiscal year. And there are many projects that many of them I agree with though. I've been debating back and forth, I'm gonna vote this budget, and I've decided because I do have concerns about one major item, I reluctantly am not going to vote this budget. And I've explained in the past why I'm not for it, but I'll say it again, I do not agree with how the pay raises are being handled. I disagree with legal counsel's interpretation on how pay raises are handled. I strongly believe, and I'm very certain, you need to amend the charter. And I think the council, my colleagues do deserve a pay raise, yes. I think A, the current amount that's suggested is too high. B, the funding for these pay raises are coming from the settlement agreement with the Department of Corrections. So we got $324,000 from that, and roughly $24,000 of that is going to these increased compensations. So I just can't have good conscience because I strongly believe this is not the proper way of handling this. I just cannot vote for this budget. And I know the budget will pass, But if it does pass, I'm not going to accept the pay raise until the charter changes. The charter needs to be changed. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Anybody else have any comments, questions? All right, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Bishop,
Yes.
Black,
Yes.
Easley,
Yes.
Case,
No.
Riddle,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
All right, the resolution passes. Moving on to the motion to approve zoning ordinance Title 15, Buildings and Construction, from Chapter 15.2 Vacant Property Registration, Section 15.12.010 through 15.12.030. Mr. Button.
This comes from committee. The origin of it is that we were urged in the discussions for Reimagine Chatham, open discussions, from the consultants, that such a tool is very useful to the town. So it's an investigation, and this is what the committee is presenting. That's where it came.
All right, coming from committee that requires no second, is there any questions or comments?
I have a comment. I think that we should accept this, because if you really read this, there are so many, in the definition of a derelict building that's so broad, that you're gonna have a lot of people that won't even know that we have this, and they won't come forward and register their building. And I think $100 a year, year after year after year, is not necessary. I don't know what the town's gonna do with the money. And all we're doing is filling out a piece of paper. This affects me. And so I know what I'm gonna have to go through. And I know it's a lot of people are gonna be in the same situation. This is most any building, it says non-residential or residential, or vice versa. And, it's basically, if it's been vacant for a period of time, you're gonna have to come in and pay $100 every year until it gets occupied. And it's a lot of buildings are just buildings for storage. And, I have a couple of buildings that, at one time, they were little cabins, and instead of tearing them down, I just kept them, I mow around them, I keep them up and everything. But I'm gonna have to pay $300 every year, and I'm gonna fill out the forms every year and give them to the town. I don't know what the town needs to have them registered every year for, that makes no sense. And you still turn around and pay $100, and what's the money for? How are you gonna, enforce it? Are you gonna, I mean, it's enough that we pass it tonight, but as a world of people won't even know this is in here. And, I don't know, it sounds like a fine more than anything else. It's called a registration fee, but if you fill out the form and give it to the town with the money, what process do you have to have? You can have a clipboard, just put the form on there. But we're taking money from people just because they got a house that's not occupied. Now, I can understand if it's, and there's houses that we all know we wanna do something about, but if they're not dangerous.
Well, I think this says in here that it says derelict buildings shall be